Happy Monday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Matt, and we had a long, hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Lots of football and drama. And Matt, I got to tell you something. I hope, I hope LSU never wins another football game. I
Yeah,
Lane Kiffin is who Lane Kiffin is. He
yeah,
had It was funny because I don't know about you, but when I heard there's two planes going from LSU to Oxford, I'm thinking, why? I mean, there's only one Lane Kiffin, so who? What the hell?
hmm
It turns out he takes his coaching staff with him.
at least attempted to. Yeah,
I got a pretty good chunk of them,
yeah. He got his offensive coordinator, his
right?
general manager, his
Strength
strength and
coach.
conditioning. Yeah. Aside from that, I don't think he was able to get anybody from the defensive side. Granted, I don't think he's
No,
going to need anybody from the defensive side with Blake Baker there already. Um, so there is that. But yeah, he was not joined by as much of his coaching staff as I was expecting based on the reporting that was kind of coming out of that meeting late Saturday night.
from what I heard and talked to people about it, they said that there was a big battle that went on between the president of Ole Miss, the AD, and Lane.
hmm
And Lane was livid about the fact that he thought they, meaning Ole Miss, was being unrealistic for not allowing him to coach the team through the playoffs.
Yeah, I did put out a tweet yesterday because I was just sitting there thinking about it as kind of everything was unfolding yesterday, and people are going to make the comparisons about how LSU and Lane Kiffin are a great match, and there's a lot of stuff football related, like on the field related, that's a great match. But I think about the way that these seasons have gone for these guys. When LSU fired Brian Kelly, uh,
Having a little trouble with your microphone there, bud.
can you hear me? Hello.
At the moment, my problem with Lane is that it's Lane being. We had hoped. I mean, how he's changed and how he uh, life down and is calmer for him. And this is where he wants to be. So, now we're coming back to Matt. Hey, Matt, I was just saying that Lane had, we had that documentary on him where he's at peace and, all that
hmm
stuff. And, 6 years at Ole Miss and he couldn't be happier. Family loves it, blah, blah, blah. Only to turn around and see that Lane has not changed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, kind of what you expect at this point. He's a guy who, at every coaching decision, has come with some turmoil, seemingly, that he's made. No, but I thought about the comparison of when LSU fired Brian Kelly earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
What did they come back and do? They tried to cut his buyout down, and they were playing victim. Like, oh, Brian Kelly's making us pay
Mm-hmm.
the whole buyout. That's what it felt like. And then as Lane Kiffin's leaving Ole Miss, seemingly attempting to leave them in ruin, he's like, "Why won't you guys let me stay here and coach?"
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that. Now, what I will say in terms of Lane Kiffin and I guess the credit that's due is one, if he had just left for LSU, if you take away all the other stuff, he just left for LSU, it's it's the better job. It is unequivocally the better job. The brand's better. The high school recruiting's better. You're probably going to have better roster funds to work with overall at LSU. And I don't think anybody's going to dispute that fact. But it was the manner in which he went about it that made this as big an issue as it is.
Yeah, I mean, look, if let's say 2 weeks ago, when this whole thing kind of started, hell, even a week ago, right? Even after the, when, when he was getting ready for the Egg Bowl, and he said he may have said, "Look, I'm gonna, I want this to go over, and then we're gonna, I'm going to LSU." Okay,
Mm-hmm.
even that I could have tolerated,
Yeah.
but to drag this out and to basically say to his players, I don't think we can win championships here. Because that's what he's doing. That's what he's saying. He doesn't have to say it. And please tell me, I want to go home and, speak to God. Was God, an LSU fan?
He must have been.
Because I don't get that. I mean, the money's not that much different. Okay. It's really not.
Yeah.
But the thing that I just don't get with Lane is he's never happy.
No, he isn't. And I mean, I think I can sum this one up as part of the because I mean I really don't think this was a decision based on like the financial aspect of it. I don't think he was lying when he said that on Pat McAfee's show. But I'm going to throw three things out here, and I want you to pick the odd one out.
Okay.
Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss.
Yep.
That's the Saban disciple group chat they have in the SEC. Who's the odd one out there?
That's
It's
Ole Miss, right?
It's Ole Miss, and I don't think there was anything like people have with Lane Kiffin and who he is. People have been using the analogy of relationships seemingly the entire time, and so Ole Miss was never hot enough. It didn't matter, how many Botox injections or plastic surgeries they had. Ole Miss was not hot enough at their base. He wanted to be at a place like a Georgia and a Texas like Sark and Kirby are. It was never about the money. It's about the name for Lane Kiffin. It's the same reason he went to USC when he left Tennessee. It wasn't because Tennessee wasn't a good job. It was because USC was the name that Lane Kiffin wanted. Lane Kiffin has been chasing this name that he can stick next to his and be like, this is who I am. Like, this is where I am. And as much as I have a problem with some of the stuff and the way he handled it, the thing that rubs me the worst is his interaction with the Ole Miss beat reporter Ben Garrett. That drove me up a wall. It was an analogy that he took exception to, and then he took the petty way out the same way he takes the petty way out of everything. And people will sit here and they're going to bash him online for as long as it takes. But you can tell by his social media posting, it does not bother him. He got what he wanted. It does not bother him.
Well, it's all about him. But let me ask you this question. Do you think the coaches at Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, woke up this morning and said, oh my God, Lane Kiffin is at LSU. Boy, we're going to have a problem.
No, I
don't think anybody. I don't think any of those four in the Southeastern Conference woke up today thinking anything, but I'm waiting to run him out of the building.
Yeah, I don't think it's that like intimidating of a hire. He has done a really good job these last couple of years at Ole Miss.
Ain't won nothing.
Yeah, you can't take that away from him. But you also can look at things objectively and say that last year's team was probably better than this year's team.
Mm-hmm.
I think just objectively, talent-wise speaking, they lost 3 games. They lost to Florida, they lost to Kentucky, and this is in the process of them beating a solid Georgia team last year at home. Like he had it all set out in front of him, and yet the part of him being a head coach and keeping his team focused week in and week out, the reports are that during the Kentucky week, he was busy with supposedly some personal matters. The Florida week, I don't know what was going on, but his team wasn't ready for that week either. So Lane Kiffin, the head coach, for as high as his highs have and can be, pretending like he is a guy that's going to get you to a certain level of success and sustain it all the way through feels like something unrealistic, quite honestly.
Yeah, and if you are a somebody who wants to play at LSU, is there any? Can you believe anything he's saying?
I mean, he's the kind of guy that it feels like he's going to be able to talk his way out of it in a sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like he's still going to be able to like be successful and recruit and compete regardless of what he's done. Because I mean, my God, he just did it at Ole Miss. Like it now, maybe it's under the guise of him being a different person is the reason that he was able to do it at Ole Miss successfully. But he was able to do it. So if he can convince those people, then I have no problem believing that he can convince the people of Baton Rouge. I mean, there are people online that really feel like Lane Kiffin was wrong. And by people, I mean LSU fans that feel like why are you bashing Lane? Like what did he do wrong here? I had an interaction where they said on Twitter yesterday where they said, if you just changed the names of the schools, if he was leaving to go to Alabama, would people be this upset? Yes, it's not about LSU. It's not about where he's going. It's about the way he went about his business, which was making this a public spectacle for weeks on end,
Mm-hmm.
essentially trolling his own fan base at the time in Ole Miss, and then ultimately just tossing them out back on the scrap heap like he did Tennessee.
Yeah, I know. Scott Strickland and the folks at Florida got tired and just
Mhm.
said, "Look, you know, we're moving because we're not going to sit here and wait. We're going to start talking to people." And the moment Lane decides he's going to go to LSU, which that's what everybody that I spoke to, with Florida thought he was going to do. They said, "Fine, but we're just going to go get somebody." Now, they hired Tulane's head coach, who we both like, the guy.
Yeah.
Summerall, he's got a very good chance of doing well there. Um, Look at that. It's funny. Tulane, Memphis, USF, and North Texas. All those coaches, three of them went to the SEC. One of them went to the Big 12.
Mhm. Yeah.
So they're all the where are the assistants? No, they want head coaches who are going to come in and hopefully, for their sake, have impact. And I was told on Saturday that there were that don't 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 sleep on the idea that Golish is going to Arkansas. And I said, what's up? And they said, well, we know that he's got two other offers out there.
Mhm.
He's got Auburn and Ole Miss contacted as a what if situation. And so whenever um, the dust cleared in the morning, Golish takes the Auburn job. And again, look, the way Alex handled it, the way the school handled it, I have no problem with it. He did a very good job at USF, and for that I appreciate it. He coached through the game the other night, the game against Rice, and he basically when it was over, it was over, and he didn't say to anybody, well, I want to stick around for the bowl game. He said, look, I know you've got a job to do, and Rob Higgins, actually in social media, Rob Higgins put a thing out saying how much he appreciated, how professional Golish handled it. Somerville handled it well with Tulane. The Memphis coach, did a good job there, too.
Mhm.
North Texas, everybody handled, leaving where they were with a very class ending.
Yeah.
Why couldn't Lane have done that?
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, at this point, it just feels like kind of who he is, the way things are going. Um, for him, I will say I think lost in the big shuffle of all this coaching hire is the people down there in Arkansas. They are done. Quite frankly, with they are not happy with the hire. They are not happy with the numbers that have been tossed out there that they were not willing to pony up for Alex Golish. They're not happy with Hunter Yurachek, the athletic director there. And
Mhm.
at this point, to be honest with you, I can't really say that I blame them all that much. Um, it feels like a guy here who's got a losing record against top 25 opponents in Ryan Silverfield.
Mhm.
And it's understandable to be upset at this point because you feel like time and time again Arkansas has botched these hires. They don't have a collective. They haven't sold the naming rights to their field.
Mhm.
It feels like they've dropped the ball on so many things that could pour money into this athletic program and into this football team because and this is the reason I feel like it's fair because I watched that football team and I didn't think, man, they're a coach away. I watched
Mhm.
that football team and said, man, if they'd spent a little more on their NIL here and
Right.
they supplemented a little bit more on that defense and maybe added an extra piece or two on offense, then maybe some of these really close results that you guys are having, they flip the other way, not because of the coaches, but because of the players on the field. So it's an understandable gripe that Arkansas fans have right now with their athletic department.
Well, I mean, Arkansas was once an incredibly relevant program,
Mm-hmm.
and it just since they've gone into the SEC and away from the Southwest Conference back in the old days, when frankly Texas and Arkansas had one of the bigger that rivalry was bigger than Texas and Texas A&M. Uh, Actually, what was it, in 1971? I think when they played, you know, that rivalry game that then President Richard Nixon was at. He went into the locker room after the game and declared Texas the national champion, which was interesting because Clemson got the national championship on UPI that year. Um, but anyway, they just haven't been relevant. They've been relevant in basketball, but they haven't really been relevant in football.
Yeah,
And it goes to your point. I mean, you're either going to play with the big boys or you're not. And clearly, they don't want to play with the big boys.
yeah, and I mean, being in the Southeastern Conference, it feels like you're almost like you owe that to not only your fan base but seemingly the rest of the conference to to compete and put a good product out there on the field. That's not something they're doing right now, and it's an understandable disappointment that these fans have. So Ole Miss and LSU will dominate the headlines for a while now, as they should.
Mhm.
But what can't get lost in the shuffle is the pain that Arkansas fans are enduring currently.
No, and it's fair. It's fair. I know that there's a lot of backlash about Golish on that.
Hmm.
Golish came out and said, "Look, I spoke to them. They made me a very nice offer. Nothing was in writing. I never signed anything. I never committed to them. I said that I would let them know. They said fine." And he goes, other options came out.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're Alex Golish, you're looking at your options in the way that things have gone. I just reprimanded their athletic department. Why would you, in an attempt to go, compete for a national title, which is what you're doing when you're taking an SEC job? Like that's the thought process
Mm-hmm.
at a lot of SEC jobs. Auburn is a job where you think you can go and you can compete for a national title. LSU is, Florida is, Ole Miss to an extent is as well. Like these are all places where you feel like you can compete for a national title. And right now, Arkansas is not a place that is financially committed to attempting to compete in football right now.
Well, you uh, have over the last couple weeks sang the praises of what a great job Auburn is.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fantastic job. Uh, when
How
Auburn,
that game the other night was entertaining.
yeah, when Auburn is aligned and they move in one direction, that is a
Mhm,
place that can be a very good program. They have a good collective.
mhm,
There's something like people will talk about the stadium and albeit what was a completely and utterly overplayed narrative, this haunted house thing this entire week.
mhm,
There is something about Auburn that people gravitate to typically when they get out there. Like when you talk to people that went to Auburn and they talk about Auburn, they talk about the special place that it is. So in an essence, sometimes it does the recruiting for itself as a place.
mhm,
And so when you get somebody in there that can also that can actually recruit as well, like you don't have a Hugh Freeze and you don't have a Brian Harson in there, and you actually go in and you run a legitimate coaching search and you find the right guy for the job, it's a place that you can win at. Especially in today's day and age, it is a place that you can
mhm,
win at. So yeah, if Alex Golish has found the right fit and Auburn has found the right fit in Alex Golish, that is a place that is not going to be like you're not going to want to go to Auburn. You're not going to want to play against Auburn in 2 3 years.
mhm. And it's a when you're on campus at Auburn, it really is special. I mean, it's a special place. It's a
Hmm.
nice place to go. It's I didn't go there, but I've been there many times. That it's just they take a great deal of pride in that school. The alumni take a great deal of pride in it. The people around it. I mean, gotta remember what it's about 90 miles from Atlanta, right?
Yeah, it's about like 2 hours, 2.5, somewhere in there.
I know that only because we one day after we had done a football game there, we had to fly out and we had to drive to Hartsfield to get there. And I know we we were booking it pretty good to get to the to make it to the airport. And it's just a good place. But you know, we like somewhere else higher at Florida. A lot of Florida people were nuts about going. We just got away from a G5 coach. Now you brought another G5 coach in. What
Yeah,
the hell's going on? But he's not a G5 coach. And people have got to understand that the Atlantic, the American Conference, the upper echelon of the American Conference, with the coaches they have, are good coaches.
yes.
So why would you not want to have somebody? And he's successful. There's no reason to believe he can't coach at Florida.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean John Summerall had done a fantastic job. Willie Fritz left him a pretty good situation down there at Tulane.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the success that Willie Fritz had at Tulane, it
Mm-hmm.
was understandable to expect some form of drop off when you make a coaching change. That didn't really happen at Tulane. Maybe they didn't enjoy like as high a level of success. But when I say
Mm-hmm.
as high a level of success, we're talking like maybe you lost 1 to 2 extra games throughout a season than Willie Fritz had during his run there. Like they're still a really good program. They're playing for an AAC title, and now if you're, it's a weird situation because obviously if you're both of those programs and those head coaches and Eric Morris and John Summerall, you want
Mm-hmm.
to win that football game. You want to see your team win that football game if you're the fans. But now each of those schools has a special cohort of fans that are like, we don't want you to win. we
Right.
want the season to be done. We want you to come be at our place, come finish, come like try to put together some recruiting class and go attack the portal.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're looking at a situation where with the AAC in that conference championship game, the way it's going, you're going to have at least two schools in this playoff that will not have their head. Well, I say will not. Will have their head coach bound for elsewhere. Based on my understanding, if whatever AAC team wins that title and makes it to the playoff, they
Mm-hmm.
will be allowed to coach out their time at that school.
Right. They will. Um, and honestly, it's because they were straight up transparent with the administration as to what they wanted to do.
Yeah, and what I will say is I do think it's a little different when you're jumping from the AAC to the SEC. like just in terms
No question, no doubt.
of the jump. So I feel like it's easier for them to let them coach through, but still the proposition that Lane is a victim in all this is absurd.
Yeah, he's about that's ridiculous. And when you bring a second plane because you're taking coaches with you, and don't for a moment think that he's not going to land 3 or 4 or 5 of those players from Ole Miss in at LSU.
Oh yeah, no. There's gonna be
He's going to kill the program.
he's gonna get a decent amount of guys there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you're more apt to see offensive guys go than defensive guys,
Right.
with Pete Golding staying there. But still that team is really more built on their offense right now than it is necessarily on their defense this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a hit for Ole Miss when these players do inevitably start leaving, because there's a very real possibility that they do the same thing, that there's a few of them that are very much in it for themselves and they leave that school
Mm-hmm.
that they played a crucial part in getting them to that playoff berth and don't even play it out.
It's I went on Twitter I think it was yesterday, and said, look, Tulane, North Texas, USF, Memphis all lost their coaches.
Mm-hmm.
It basically now there's a reset, and whoever lands, you know, the right coach could very well control that conference.
Yeah, I mean they're all starting from ground zero essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and they all were the class of the conference. So it's going to be interesting now what happens with the AAC, partially just because of the automatic playoff bid.
Sure.
Is because there's an automatic G5 bid, and really if the AAC is not putting out a good product, then it falls on the Mountain West, because after you get past those two G5 conferences,
Mm-hmm.
your fall off is pretty significant.
Well, I'll tell you, it to me, the key thing here has been that you know that I think all of them are ready to grab somebody. I don't know who those somebody is. I know here's the wild stuff. We get the wild stuff, right? People are floating Jimbo Fisher out there as a possible candidate for Tulane and for USF.
That's
And there's absolutely no way in hell I can see either of those universities taking Jimbo Fisher.
it would I mean if you're Jimbo Fisher, do you even want that job? Like I don't think they want you, and I'm not sure you want them.
Well, he can't find it. He can't find a school in any of the P4 conferences that want him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jimbo trying to get his hat back in the coaching ring is interesting. Uh, he works at the ACC network right now. I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand why he would be, just starving to get back into coaching.
I don't know. He made a lot of money off of the buyout of Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's pretty much your reason right there, is you're just chasing another buyout because
Hell,
it,
if you really wanted to if he really wanted to coach, and you had just mentioned it, why wouldn't he just call up and take the Arkansas job?
yeah,
He's banked all the money, so it doesn't. This would not be about money. This would be
yeah,
about, I want to get back into coaching and prove that I can coach.
yeah, you would have placed a call to Arkansas
Mm-hmm.
in an attempt to get that job. I mean, heck, at this point, the way Florida State's going, you probably would have placed a call there. It sounds like Kentucky is in the process of opening their job up,
Yeah.
so that may be another option for him if he does really want to get back into coaching.
Then we got in the crazy world, John Gruden,
Yep.
and I know John and Rob Higgins know each other, and John's house is about 20-minute drive from USF, but I'm pretty sure John's not going to take the USF job.
Yeah, I think when John has his sights set on returning to coaching, I think his sights might be set a little higher than Florida and you than South Florida.
Hmm.
Not a disrespect to that job. I think it's more
No,
just the way that
no, it's just
John views himself in terms of where his coaching or where he wants to coach.
he wants to coach USC, but that probably isn't going to happen.
Well, there's a it, I because this is one that I don't get and I haven't really gotten a good feel or understanding of the whole way. Is what in the world is going on, with Penn State, that head coaching job, with
I don't
USC
know.
and everything that's talked like for any job opening that's been, it sounds like all of a sudden Lincoln Riley's just started popping up. It's like, well, the word is that he wants to get out of Southern California. And first off, why? And second off, where would Lincoln Riley go if he were to do it again? Not to mention the fact that he's starting to work himself into a Lane Kiffin tier if he were to leave South California, Southern California. Jeez.
Yeah, I don't I don't see the fit.
No, no. I mean, you've got Penn State now that they're still sitting there open. I don't know who is going to be the head coach. At this point, I'm not sure anybody knows who's going to be the head coach. Um, they have made a mess of this with now their former head coach snagging again two more of their former commits today to add
Hmm.
to that Virginia Tech class. So the more time goes on, the one I think there's two aspects to this for Penn State. The more time goes on, the less likely you are to be successful next year, which feels like it's already an uphill battle going into the next season.
Hmm.
Two, the more time goes on, the more recruits like you're gonna the are not that the less likely you are to hit a home run. It feels like because at that point, the longer this is taking, it feels like more people just continue to tell you no. And it's starting to get into a way where it feels like Penn State is starting to tread dangerously into that territory that Tennessee found themselves in after
Hmm.
they fired Butch Jones, where no one would take that job.
I'm wondering if they have a deal because we talked about Ohio State and their coordinator, defensive coordinator last week. I'm wondering if they have an agreement that once Ohio State's finished, that they can hire him over to come to Penn State.
But at this point, it feels like there would have been some sort of something that came out of somebody's mouth, unless they are
Mhm.
just being incredibly like absurdly well tight-lipped on this. It feels like you would have heard something about Brian Hartline having a deal in place to become the next head coach at Penn State.
Mhm.
So that's really the key piece that I'm missing in terms of that being the answer. I'm not saying that it won't be, but it feels like we would have heard about it by now if it were to have been, because this isn't something like where Penn State would then require Brian Hartline to immediately come to campus and pull all his attention that way. Like it's obvious what Ohio State has ahead of them, and if that's your guy, then yeah, you sacrifice the offseason and let him come. But at the same point, you would have also given your fans a little bit more peace of mind in terms of where that program is headed.
Well, I know that they spoke to Bob Chesney, the James Madison coach. Um, they spoke to the representatives of BYU's coach Kalani Sarek, and they've former NFL coach Brown Beadall, uh, I'm sorry, Double, and I I don't know. I mean, it's a good job. I don't know why either they're doing a bad job of recruiting somebody, or they can't find somebody. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I know that just based on things that have been said and read and all the reporting that's been done on it, it appears that there's some booster backing
Hmm.
for Terry Smith to potentially be the next head coach there. Um, it, if they hire Terry Smith, then they've just thrown their Joe Paterno goggles on and started like sticking their fingers in their ears and humming, just pretending that they made the right choice and everything will be okay. That would be a complete and utter failure of a coaching search if Terry Smith were to be the next head coach at Penn State.
Yeah. I don't think that I don't think the boosters at Penn State would be on board with that. There's a lot of corporate sponsorship at Penn State,
Yeah.
so the viewing of you know what exactly are you doing. The one guy who I thought would get at least an interview was Jim Mora Jr.
Yeah.
What he's done at Connecticut, I thought was pretty damn impressive.
He made an interesting move this week. He chose to take the head coaching job at Colorado State,
Yeah,
uh,
no.
which that one is just one that does not make sense to me at all whatsoever. Just because it feels like such a lateral move based on where he was at that you would have just kind of expected him to stay put
Hmm.
if that was the move he was going to make. Now, if he was going to go to, if UCLA was going to hire him back, that's understandable. You take that job. I'm very perplexed by the move from UConn to Colorado State.
Yeah, and it's like Colorado State's not a bad school, but you know, I just it doesn't. UConn he had building, and I think he could have easily walked into a couple of other P4 jobs. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure what the hell happened there.
Yeah, I I just I did not get that one in this wacky coaching carousel that we're headed down. That was one of the more confusing moves that was made over the weekend.
Um, I was talking. Somebody asked me if I were coach. If I were looking for the next coach of USF, who would it be? And I said Willie Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
I like Willie. He's never had a losing season. Um, you know, it's he's he did well at Florida A&M.
Yeah.
He's got incredible ties to all of the major, high schools in the state. He's well thought of. He's right now at FIU. Took that program and turned it back around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it the sexiest name? No, but if you're looking for somebody who likes to do the up tempo offense like Golish did, and look and is looking for somebody who deserves a shot, Willie Simmons is your guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's done a really good job, and that's what you're looking for when you're hiring these head coaches. It's all about relationships. Yes, schemes matter, that they do, but now more than ever, your head coaching position is who do you know and how are you going to CEO? Because like these, a lot of these head coaching hires, when you're talking scheme and the way things are going to be done, yes, these guys have a belief and they will have their fingerprints on whatever side of the ball they have spent most of their career coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still going to hire a coordinator to take over the play calling duties of said side of the football. So while it may be, your scheme, you still have to relinquish that duty in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean you can't expect it to be all you. By the way, I apologize for not saying this. Bob Chesney took the job at UCLA.
He did?
Yeah,
When?
about 20 minutes ago.
Oh, well, so there is now that you say that, there is a scenario now where
And
there
by
are.
the way, he's the son. We're talking about we were talking about the American, right? He's
Mhm.
the son. He's with the Sun Belt.
Yeah, yeah, that's what. Well, that's what I knew there was a good chance that he was headed elsewhere. James Madison seems to have a little bit of a special lore to it, so there was also a chance that maybe he didn't get the right offer and would stay. Um, but there's now a chance where if Duke wins on Saturday in
Hmm.
that ACC title game, that
Yeah.
you have three programs in the college football playoff. One that is, now with a new head coach, and two that will be with, I would assume, their old head coaches just for that playoff run.
Hmm. It's it's crazy. I mean, we gone are the days of hiring the coordinators. It looks like.
Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to understand why that's happening. Is it a shorter leash in terms of time? Like everybody talks about the calendar and how bad the college football calendar is, and it is bad. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but is this the reason? Like, does nobody want to wait on a guy to, I guess, learn how to be a head coach anymore? And that's the reason we're going the route of almost exclusively head coaches this hiring cycle.
What I've been told by a number of athletic directors is that because of the portal, because of NIL, because of so much other, you know, for lack of a better term, sidebar issues, right?
Hmm.
That they want somebody who understands what it is to have the control of being a head coach. They don't want somebody who they have to teach or learn, if you will, learn the job. And so, yeah, that's why most of them have come that way. What I was just saying, Matt, was that the ads that I spoke to say that they just don't have the time for a coordinator to get up to speed on how to become a quality head coach. They'd rather have somebody. For instance, I mean, we mentioned it today, right? There's five of the openings that we talked about went to G5 head coaches.
Hmm.
Now there are a hell of a lot of coordinators out there who I'm sure would just as easily make fantastic coaches.
Yeah.
But the ads say, look, I'm sorry, we got too much money invested in this. We're gonna go out and get our say a head coach who we don't have to wait for them to understand how to run a program. Okay, fair enough. But it could be one of those things where you take a guy because you think he can coach, and he's coaching on a level that isn't at the level you are. So you know, maybe in some cases, the coordinators know more about how the head coaching job works than some of these head coaches do.
hmm that's where if you're hiring a coordinator, um, where you're going to hire from Georgia and Ohio State and Oregon
Mm-hmm.
and all these schools, is you're going to hire a coordinator that has been doing it at the highest level for a significant period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes Brian Hartline an attractive head coaching candidate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to make, if that Kentucky job does come open, Will Stein at Oregon, their offensive coordinator. That's what's going to make him an attractive option. Is you've got to now, the pool of coordinators that you're willing to hire from shrinks dramatically because it has to be somebody who has essentially already cut their chops in terms of learning how to run a program under some of the best that are doing it right now.
If I were UCLA, I would have just opened up everything and tried to get Will Stein.
Yeah, I'll be surprised. Honestly, I know he's a Kentucky guy. I would be surprised if Kentucky was a job that he was willing to leave for.
No,
But but you know, it, at this point, nothing shocks me in college.
Stranger things have happened. So yeah, um, crazy weekend. Okay, now you got Georgia, Alabama, Texas Tech, and BYU, Indiana, and Ohio State, and Duke and Virginia as your P4 championship games.
Mm-hmm.
Some very interesting situations along that line.
Yeah. Quick aside, because people have been absolutely losing their minds over it yet again today. Um, College game day is going to Atlanta. Um, yeah, they chose to go to Atlanta over the Big Ten title game. You don't see big noon kickoff scheduling SEC games, so conference bias, media bias, what have you. They're going to Atlanta. In all honesty, the history that Alabama and Georgia carry, it just carries more brand value than Ohio State and Indiana does. Flat out, plain simple, no two ways around it. The other the actual football side of this is that there is chaos that awaits in this scenario. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is a certain subset of results where you just go, we kind of don't know what everything's going to look like. What what if Alabama beats Georgia? What if BYU beats Texas Tech? Um, these are things that can shift like who's in. Like if Georgia beats Alabama and BYU beats Texas Tech, and you just chalk everything else, then you're looking at a world where Alabama is likely out of the college football playoff because
Mm-hmm.
BYU has jumped in over them at that number 10 spot. If Alabama were to beat Georgia and BYU were to win, then you're looking at a weird one because now Alabama is a conference champion that has to stay in, and now
Mm-hmm.
BYU also has to work their way in. So who's dropping out on that backside if those results were to happen? You feel like the top six-ish teams are kind of locked in, which is good. But then there's that fun scenario up there in Charlotte where what happens if Duke wins the ACC title?
Which they could.
Yes, the ACC, and I'll add this on there. Texas and Miami fans, they're just talking to themselves. They're trying to appease themselves. There is not a soul that believes that either of those two teams is going to get into this college football playoff, nor do they deserve to. And if they have a problem with that, beat the teams you should have beat. That's it. The Texas fans have been like, well, if we hadn't scheduled Ohio State, we'd be in the playoff. Guess what? If you beat a 4-win Florida team, you'd also be in the playoff. But
Mm-hmm.
you were one of their 4 wins. 4.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why. And the same goes for Miami. Don't lose to Louisville and don't lose to SMU. You're in the worst Power 4 conference there is, and yet you're so mighty and powerful, but you lost twice to them. I don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm. No, there's. I mean, we heard Sark and Cristobal both plead their case. Um, Look, I don't blame him for doing it, but
Yeah,
you know,
no,
it
I mean,
rings hollow whenever you start looking at stuff like that.
yeah, like it's their job to plead their case. I don't put
Mhm.
any like smite on them. That's your job. You feel like you've done a good job. You feel like you deserve it. But just objectively speaking, from all these figureheads, I mean, Chris the Bear Felica has pretty much just been on a propagandizing run of why Miami should be in
Mhm.
specifically over Notre Dame. It's like what are we doing here?
Mhm.
Like win your games you're supposed to win, then you're in. It feels so simple, yet people seem to make it a lot more difficult than it needs to be.
Okay, if Texas, all right, if Texas had lost to, let's go this route. If Texas had lost to, I'm sorry, yeah, to Ohio State, and Texas had lost to Texas A&M, and those were their two losses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, okay, you know what? They lost what was by a touchdown to Ohio State,
Mm-hmm.
and they lost again, not by much, to the other night of Texas A&M.
Well, Texas beat Texas A&M.
Right, no, Texas beat Texas. I'm sorry. If
Yeah.
what was the other team that I was
Oh, it
thinking of?
was Georgia.
Georgia, right? If that would have been their loss, you would have lost to the number one and number four team in the country.
Yep.
So,
Both on the road.
I would say okay. One was a conference guy, right? That was your Georgia game,
Hmm.
and kudos to you for going to the big house and playing Ohio State. You'd have a much better argument than what you just put out there, which is they don't have a good argument.
No, their argument dies when they aren't in Austin. I
Right.
mean, they have been they have been a really really good football team when they have played in Austin this year. That's
And Brian Turner says Lane could very well be another Kirby Smart. He could be. I don't know.
he could be. I Brian, my pushback on that would be Kirby Smart has always been a better recruiter than Lane Kiffin, hands down, no debate about it. Um, that's going to have to change. You're going to have to find more consistency in his head coaching because, unlike Kirby Smart, you have a head coaching pedigree to go off of with Lane Kiffin. LSU is a special place. LSU is going to recruit itself in a certain manner, but it can't recruit itself the whole way. And so Lane is going to have to put a little more focus on the high school recruiting side of things and stop hitting the portal so hard if he wants to create a sustainable environment of success.
Yeah, I'm not sure he does. I think he wants to win a championship. I would look at that portal because I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna work the portal. Now he did bring his guy with him on the plane over to his general manager
Mm-hmm.
who handles recruiting. So and LSU has the tools to get there. But I don't know what the pitch. I mean, look, you could win a national championship by just recruiting kids within a 75-mile radius of Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna, but you could. But I think a lot of it's going to be, you've got teams that like Georgia, like um, Alabama, the two Texas teams we talked about, who are going to recruit against you. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to pitch to me why I'm going to LSU.
Well, I would say now more than ever, those schools that are recruiting against them
Hmm.
have a really good pitch that they can negative recruit LSU. They're just going to toss Lane Kiffin's background and the way that things went at Ole Miss. That's going to be the pitch. Be like, yeah, I get it, but look, he looks like he's concerned about himself a lot more than he is about making you a great player and a pro at that.
He
So
walked out on a team going to play for a national, in the playoffs for a national championship.
yeah, so there's going to be negative recruiting there with LSU as well.
And
You know
what if he pisses off the governor?
that well, yeah, there is that. But their spice that both LSU and Lane Kiffin have, they do
Mhm.
match. There's no doubt about that. I think they'll be successful. I'm questionable about how long and how much noise is there involved with that success. It, is it a situation where you're like, yeah, we're winning, but like, man, Lane's making a real mess of it in terms of the PR and stuff like that. By the way, another this is purely a theory that I have. Um, I fully expect on Saturday, college game day, and that desk to have nothing but rave reviews about Lane Kiffin. That's just a theory that I have. There's a lot of
Oh,
Sexton.
it's gonna be a love fest.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sexton people on that desk. I would fully expect
Oh,
that.
Saban, was one of the guys who told him go.
Yeah, yeah. So
By the way, Saban also fired him.
yes, yeah. Saban is the reason that he went to FAU. Like he,
Mhm.
so there is that.
1 week before the title game.
Yep. Yeah. So there's I don't know. There's just so much. I can look at things and say that Lane Kiffin made a decision that is a undoubtedly better job, and then I can look at it and say that Lane Kiffin made a decision where they're probably going to be more successful consistently over the long term at LSU than if you were to have stayed at Ole Miss. But I can also look at it and say, man, did he go about it just as horribly as you possibly can? And if
Mhm.
you eventually get past all that and say there is a Lane Kiffin that has made some growth, then yes, you have a path to success. But it's going to be something where I need to see it to believe it in order to think that this is going to be a long term happy marriage for Lane Kiffin and LSU.
You're just your mic dropped out a bit there. A scenario of Kiffin. I agree. There is no reason why LSU and Kiffin can't be successful. There's no reason why LSU and Kiffin can't win a national championship. Okay, that all of that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely saying that can happen. What I'm saying is that this weekend was everything wrong with the present system of college football.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It was
there's no.
handled in such a ham-handed way, and the idea that you're going to steal coaches away just because you're annoyed that that they wouldn't let you coach, in the playoffs while you're going to a school that, by the way, you're going to play on your schedule next year.
Yeah.
Um, I think rings hollow.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss and LSU aren't exactly friendly fan bases with
No.
one another. They play in the Magnolia Bowl. That is a rivalry. They don't exactly
Mhm.
love each other. That will add extra spice. But boy, you want to talk about a scene next year. Next year in Oxford, when Lane Kiffin returns to town, that is going to be a fan base that is out for blood. Um, in no uncertain terms. I mean, when you look at some of the stuff that they've already got put out on social media in
Mhm.
terms of exposing Lane Kiffin's dirty laundry while he was there, which is exactly what they're doing. By the way, if you're going to try to burn a place down, I would burn a place down that I don't have just, loads and loads of dirty laundry
Right.
left which apparently was not the case with Ole Miss. And he said, screw it, I'm going to burn it anyways, which was an interesting tactic.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting tactic. Um, so we've talked enough about Lane and the other coaches. Anything over the weekend in high school, in college, that surprised you?
No. We talked about it pre-show. Rivalry
Mhm.
week.
It's not easy to say.
Yeah. Um, it is a special week in college football just in
Mhm.
terms of the it shows what makes college football what it is on like
Mhm.
a magnified scale just because
Yeah.
of all of the rivalries that there are. Um, But at the same time, I also tend to take rivalry week, the results in a vacuum. Like I
Mhm.
see it as one off. I know Georgia went to Mercedes Benz and beat Georgia Tech 16-9 in
Mhm.
what was an ugly offensive football game where Gunnar Stockton could not throw the football. Now there's schematic reasons as to why Gunnar Stockton wasn't throwing a lot, why Georgia executed the game plan that they did. I'm
Mhm.
not going to get into all of that. But it's the same reason that I expect Alabama to look completely different than the team that I saw in Auburn, Alabama on
Sure.
Saturday night. These are results that I've gotten burned by before. Like I can tell you watching that 2023 Iron Bowl that I did not think there was a chance in hell that Alabama was going to roll into Mercedes-Benz Stadium and
Mm-hmm.
beat Georgia after the way they played in Auburn in 2023. I mean, narrowly escaping the way they did. I
Right.
can say the same thing about that same result for 2021 and the way Alabama escaped Auburn. And you go back to last year, it, Michigan beat Ohio State, and
Right.
Ohio State rolled to a national title after that.
Mm-hmm.
So while these results are fun and they are different, it has never rang more true. This is rivalry week. Throw the records out. These results are going to be different than the teams you will see the rest of the way.
I personally, two games surprised me. One, Florida just beating the living dog out of FSU. That surprised me. I thought
Yeah.
it would be. I thought Florida would win. I just didn't think it was going to be like that. Um, and the other one, I don't know why I was surprised, but Vanderbilt going in and rolling Tennessee and Knoxville.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that Vanderbilt and Tennessee result as well. Started out, had a really good first half of that football game.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like you were kind of in for a barn burner there. And then Vanderbilt came out in the second half and they pulled away. That brings to question a lot of stuff about Tennessee and their head coaching,
Mm-hmm.
scenario. It's going to give Diego Pavia probably a little bit more attention than maybe he deserves, all things considered. Um, when it comes to this Heisman race, just because in a week where it felt like a lot of people didn't show up that well, like Ty Simpson didn't play that well, Gunnar Stockton played awful. Um, all these Heisman. I mean, Jeremiah Love didn't play fantastic at Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
Julian Sayin played well enough, but his numbers weren't going to blow you away. Fernando Mendoza played Purdue. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that opens the door for him to sneak his way to New York as well. Um, but but Tennessee fans don't seem very happy with Josh Heupel and the way things ended this season, which if I were to say anything to Tennessee fans, I would caution you on running him out of town.
Right.
Yeah, like yes, it wasn't a fantastic season, but you guys have to remember where the expectations were set in the
Right.
off season after Nico left. Like this wasn't a place where you were expected to go win, you know, 10, 11 games and make a college football playoff this year.
Right. That wasn't going to happen. Okay, we got time for just a couple of quick thoughts on the NFL. Right now, Denver and New England are your top two teams in the AFC. Over on the NFC side, Lord knows what's going to happen. Suddenly, Carolina's been has playing well. Um, I don't know that. I honestly don't know. We talked a little bit about this last time. I honestly don't know if there is parity has reigned supreme this year in the NFL. I don't know that there actually is a super team in the NFL.
Yeah, there's not really one that you can point to. The note that I have on the NFL is, man, I feel bad for the Indianapolis Colts. The season they were having, how good it was.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones now supposedly has a fracture in his fibula,
Right,
which I didn't watch the Colts game on Sunday.
right,
Just from the video I saw at practice of Daniel Jones trying to move around, that's not something where you're going to be able to go anywhere with that leg.
no,
The same goes for it. It appears that Sauce Gardner might have torn his Achilles on Sunday as well.
yeah,
And that was your big trade deadline acquisition, so that hurts their chances as well. Matthew Stafford felt like he had a chance to really cement himself as the leader in the clubhouse for the MVP
mm-hmm.
on Sunday, and you lost to a, albeit better, but still not like Carolina's record is a lot better than I think anyone could have expected it to be at this point in
Mm-hmm.
time. And yet I sit here and it's almost like I'm scratching my head when I watch these games. Like, how on God's green earth has Carolina won the amount of football games that they have? Like, you've overachieved relative to expectation, and that's great. It's confusing the way they've won football games.
Look, I like Dave Canales a lot. Good man, and happy to see him successful. Um, but you know, in sports, we all know luck finds a way, right? And I think in this particular case, We got lucky. The balls are bouncing their way. Look, they got to win, and I don't give them credit. I don't take credit away from them winning. It's just how they've won that's been interesting. I mean, Matthew Stafford has his worst, game this year. Of course, sometimes it's tough. Sometimes, and I'm not use this as an excuse, but a West Coast team coming east is and playing a 1 o'clock window, or even a 4:30 window makes it tough. And we'll see. But Carolina's going to have a chance here in the next few weeks to either play themselves into the playoffs by winning the division, or just proving that Dave Canales is a much better coach than many people thought he was.
Yeah, I mean that division, the NFC South, is quite frankly the most depressing division in football.
Yep.
I have the displeasure of watching the Atlanta Falcons as my regional game every
Mm-hmm.
week. Uh, I clawed my eyes out as I watched them play in the rain against the Jets with Kirk Cousins starting at quarterback. Um, you
And
know,
Nick Foles hitting a game-winning field goal.
yeah, and then you've got the New Orleans Saints who have an argument to be the worst team in football, which
Mm-hmm.
is that's another fun one. But then you've got Carolina and Tampa,
Mm-hmm.
who Tampa is one where it feels like they have just got this miles long lead on this division and they've been in control the whole way. And then you look at the standings and the way the records are, and you're like, oh, this is a lot closer than it probably should be right now for Tampa with the situation that they're in. And Carolina does have that opportunity now
Mm-hmm.
where if they play better in this home stretch, they could be a playoff football team, which feels insane to say.
They could. I think a lot of it had to do with Tampa, Tampa having a number of injuries,
Oh yeah.
and
A
that
host of injuries.
they've got a all-star team on that. That's I mean, Bucky Irving just came back yesterday, so that was his first. He actually scored a touchdown. Um, I got a kick out of seeing Tristan Wirfs score a touchdown from uh, a Baker Mayfield pass, and
Mm-hmm.
Todd Bowles was funny after the game saying that maybe that with Mike Evans and Godwin and all these guys kind of dinged up, that maybe he should be playing Tristan Wirfs in the as a tight end or as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do that a lot, but it was it's a gadget play. But you know what? You try it, it works. He caught the ball. It would have been bad if he dropped it, but there you go.
Mm-hmm. Also,
One-on-one coverage with Tristan Wirfs isn't too difficult.
no.
I think the most impressive thing was uh, the Kate Otten picking him up after he got the ball, after he got the touchdown.
Well, I was impressed by the fact that Fox had a graphic ready for Tristan Wirfs, which
They did.
yeah,
That's
they had the Tristan Wirfs like touchdown graphic already ready to go. I was very shocked by that. Which maybe that was something that Tampa's coaches had kind of tossed to him in pregame meetings. So maybe
yeah. I mean, they do. Coaches will tell you
yeah,
things. And you keep confidence, but you just go into the graphics department and say, look, just for guns and giggles, here's 4 or 5 things that might happen. You know, put them in the old computer so we have them whenever if it happens, it happens.
yeah. So credit to that to the Fox team on having that ready to go
Yeah,
when that did ultimately end up happening. I thought that was pretty
that's
cool.
pretty cool. All right, well, we're gonna have plenty to talk about tomorrow because tomorrow is going to be some critical rankings, and we're gonna give you our 12 and see what you think if we are right, wrong, or how it plays out. But it's going to
Mhm.
be one interesting week as we head toward championship Saturday.
Absolutely.
All right, boys and girls, thank you very much for joining us. And we promise not to do much Lane Kiffin tomorrow. Today was just, we had 3 days of Lane Kiffin that was built up, and we just could not go without having some sort of comment on it. So,
And it
and
felt like
you go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say it felt like we let off the show with Lane Kiffin and what he was doing for the better
Mhm.
part of like a week and a half.
Right,
Not doing a good like 45 minutes on him. Almost felt like a disservice.
right. Um, One real quick aside to you all: we are not against LSU. We are not against seeing the Bayou Bengals have success. It's just how things ended up that was a little messy, and well, more than a little messy, um, and that we just want to see good college football being played and coached by good people. So you got Lane, that's who you wanted, and we'll see if that be careful what you wish for situation.
Very
We'll
possible.
see. Yep, we'll do what we can. All right, boys and girls. Tomorrow, around 3 o'clock time, we will back and we'll talk more about what goes on in college football and pro football right here. Take care, everybody.